Shirleaf by J. Pilgrim. Chapter 7. The Chase Begins. Since emigrating to New Zealand, Bob had not driven and was unfamiliar with the roads north of the capital. Nevertheless, he navigated the Oranga Tamariki vehicle along a narrow back road north of central Wellington. Soon, the city was shrinking behind them, swallowed by the rolling hills and thick bushland of the North Island. The road ahead stretched long, yet Bob's pulse remained erratic, his mind racing faster than the car itself. Beside him, Mary sat stiffly, arms wrapped around her knees, staring out the window. She had barely spoken since they left. "You all right, kid?" Bob asked, trying to keep his voice casual. Mary didn't turn to him. "You stole a government car," she remarked. Bob exhaled. "Yeah, well, they stole my kid." She let out a small huff, but he caught the flicker of something, maybe amusement, in her eyes before she returned to staring at the trees whipping past. "We'll be fine," he reassured her. "I know what I'm doing. We have never been out of the city," she muttered. Bob smirked despite himself. "Look, we'll take the scenic route. Avoid the main highways. Stick to the back roads. We'll be in Auckland before they even figure out which way we went." Mary finally turned to him, brow furrowed. "And then what? Mom's just going to let you back in? Like nothing happened?" Bob's grip tightened. "I don't know, Mary, but I have to try." She studied his face for a moment before sighing and slumping back into her seat. "You really are an idiot." "Yeah," Bob admitted. "But I'm an idiot who's trying." Bob glanced at her, a flicker of confusion crossing his face. "Why were you in the waiting room anyway?" "Were you there to visit me?" Mary hesitated, then shrugged slightly. "We were waiting for permission to visit your room." Tricia raises the alarm. Back at the hospital, Tricia, the caseworker, stormed into the security office, her face a mixture of frustration and panic. "She's gone," she snapped. "Mary Chambers. 10-year-old girl. She's missing from the waiting room." The security guard, a tired-looking man named Greg, sighed and rolled his chair over to the monitors. "You sure she didn't just wander off?" "She wouldn't just wander off. She's 10. And her father is—" Tricia stopped, eyes widening. "Check the cameras." Greg rubbed his face, then tapped a few keys, rewinding the footage. The screen flickered until it settled on an image of Mary sitting alone. Then a shadow appeared behind her. "Oh, hell," Tricia exclaimed. "Pause it." "Zoom in," Greg obliged, and the blurry figure sharpened. Disheveled hair and stubble, a blue checkered shirt barely hidden beneath a white coat. "That's Bob Chambers," Tricia said. "I knew it." He took her. Greg let the footage play. The video showed Mary standing, hesitating, then walking out with Bob. A minute later, another camera angle captured them slipping into the Oranga Tamariki car. "Wait, is he stealing your car?" Greg asked, blinking. Tricia's hands curled into fists. "That son of a gun, yes. Call the police, now." The police bulletin. Sergeant Neil Wallace had just settled in with a coffee when the urgent email came through. Confirmed child abduction. Suspect: Robert Bob Chambers, last seen in a stolen Oranga Tamariki vehicle, traveling with his daughter, Mary Chambers. Likely heading north from Wellington. Approach with caution. Suspect is desperate, Wallace groaned, rubbing his temples. "Just what I needed today." His partner, Officer Claire Davis, perked up. "Ooh, a fugitive chase. Haven't had one of those in a while." "Think we'll get helicopters?" Wallace shot her a look. "Calm down. It's not that exciting." "He's a washed-up drunk, not Jason Bourne," Claire grinned. "I dunno. He did steal a government car." "That's bold." Wallace sighed and grabbed the radio. "All units, be advised. Suspect Bob Chambers is on the move with his daughter. Vehicle: white Toyota Corolla, government plates. Last seen heading north in a stolen Oranga Tamariki vehicle. Traveling with his daughter, Mary Chambers. Approach with caution." "Suspect is desperate," Claire smirked. So we are treating it like a manhunt? Wallace took a sip of coffee. We're treating it like a pain in my ass. Cat and mouse begins. Bob was en route to the Kapiti Coast when he realized that the authorities would imminently establish roadblocks. Bob inhaled stiffly through his bruised ribs. The cops will be notified by now. As I speak, they may be setting up roadblocks on the main highway. Mary's eyes widened. And then what? Bob grimaced, adrenaline kicking in. I outmaneuver them. Uh-huh, Mary deadpanned, grabbing onto the dashboard as the car bumped along the uneven road. So, what's your plan now? Same as before. Bob said, avoid the cops. Get to Auckland. And don't crash. Mary groaned. They are going to catch you, and I will be in trouble too. Bob smirked, accelerating onto another winding back road. Not if I can help it, kid. The Oranga Tamariki car rumbled onto a deserted stretch of road, flanked by dense bushland and the occasional weathered fence post. They pulled into a small roadside petrol station, one of those old, family-run places with a faded dairy and takeaway sign swinging in the wind. Bob killed the engine and turned to Mary. We need supplies. Stay low. Don't talk to anyone. Mary rubbed her eyes. Right, but it may pay for you to take the white coat off. Bob took the credit card out of the handbag and stepped out. He topped up the fuel tank before approaching the shop. The bell over the door jingled as he walked inside, scanning the aisles. A bored-looking teenager manned the till, scrolling through his phone. Bob grabbed a basket full of essentials. Bottled water, bags of chips, pies, and sandwiches from the fridge. He hesitated before snatching up a pair of sunglasses and a cheap cap. Mary peered at him through the car window as he paid, tapping the card on the terminal. Just as Bob turned, a news broadcast flickered on the small television behind the counter. His own face stared back at him, along with Mary's. He yanked his cap lower and strode outside, forcing himself to walk rather than run. Move, kid. Now, he muttered, shoving the groceries into Mary's lap as he started the car. What happened? She asked, voice tight. Bob pulled out onto the road, keeping his eyes on the rearview mirror. They know we're out here. They'll be watching every damn road from here to Auckland. Mary sank lower in her seat. You'll be caught by lunchtime. Bob pressed down on the accelerator. Not if I can help it. Police close in. Sergeant Wallace's radio crackled. Suspect vehicle seen at a petrol station near Otaki. The clerk confirms identity. They're heading north. Wallace exchanged a glance with Claire. Time to cut them off. We'll set up a roadblock near Levin. Claire grinned, flipping open her notepad. All right, let's see. White Toyota Corolla, government plates, father and daughter inside. Oh, and let's not forget, desperate dad performing criminal acts. This is getting good. Wallace sighed, rubbing his temples. It's not good, Claire. It's a goddamn headache. We've got an unstable suspect, a stolen vehicle, and a kid who may or may not be with him willingly. The last thing we need is for this to turn into a national spectacle. The day is still young, Claire quipped, nodding at the LED display on the dash as another communication came in. Update from Highway Patrol. Officers near Levin spotted the vehicle but lost it on a back road. They're requesting air support, Wallace groaned. Great. Now we have a request for a helicopter. Just what I needed. Claire's grin widened. Told you this would be fun. Wallace ignored her and pressed the gas pedal, the patrol car surging forward. Let's just make sure no one does anything stupid before we get there. The back roads. Bob had never driven in New Zealand, nor had he been this way before. But the urgency of the trip superseded those key points. Bob's fingers drummed on the steering wheel as he weaved through the winding back roads. The roads were narrow, uneven, and barely maintained. The key to losing cops wasn't speed. It was unpredictability. I think I saw a police car behind us, Mary announced, gripping the dashboard as the car jolted over a pothole. Bob glanced at the rearview mirror. Sure enough, a police car was in pursuit with lights flashing. Wallace's patrol car sped down the road, with Claire in the passenger seat, grinning like this was the best day of her life. "Hold on." Bob yanked the wheel sharply to the right, sending the car bouncing down a dirt track that led to who knows where. Several free-grazing sheep scattered in every direction as the car barreled past them. "You are going to kill us," Mary yelled. "It's a shortcut," Bob hollered back, gripping the wheel as the car bucked over a small mound. "Besides, you ever seen cops chase someone off-road? They hate it." Behind them, Wallace slammed the brakes just short of the rough track. "Damn it, he's gone full country on us," Claire snorted. "Should have brought the off-road unit." Meanwhile, up ahead, Bob grinned as he discovered that the dirt track led back onto a sealed back road. "See? Told you they would not follow," Mary groaned, still holding on to her seatbelt for dear life. "You are making this up as you go." Bob ignored her and floored the gas. The car shot out onto a narrow bridge that spanned a shallow creek. Just as they reached the other side, Wallace and Claire's patrol car came skidding into view from another road, heading straight for them. "Oh crap." Bob swerved hard to the left, nearly sending them into a ditch before regaining control. He sped down the road just as Claire whooped in excitement from the police car behind them. "Almost had them," she said gleefully. "Do not encourage them." Wallace snapped, cranking the wheel to follow. "We need them to stop, not take us on a scenic tour of the damn countryside." Bob took another sharp turn, barely missing an abandoned tractor, and suddenly they were on a small two-lane road leading them closer to the town of Foxton. "We made it," Bob gasped, finally seeing the main highway ahead. Mary exhaled. "For now, Dad." "For now." Wallace gripped the wheel of the patrol car tighter, his patience wearing thin. "This guy is like a cockroach. We think we've cornered him, and he finds another hole to crawl through." Claire, still thoroughly enjoying herself, smirked. "Gotta admit, though, he's got style." Meanwhile, Bob veered off the main road again, taking them onto an even more questionable dirt track. A wooden sign reading "Private Property. Keep out," flashed by as the car rumbled over uneven ground. "Did you just drive us into someone's farm?" Mary asked, exasperated. Bob shrugged. "Shortcut." Behind them, Wallace's squad car hesitated at the entrance. "He's taking us on to private land," Claire remarked. Bob gunned it past a startled farmer who was trying to corral a group of cows. The animals, spooked by the roaring engine, scattered onto the dirt path just as Wallace's police car approached the bend. Wallace slammed the brakes as a stubborn-looking cow stood directly in his path, eyes wide with bewilderment. Claire snorted. "Looks like Bessie's on Bob's side. Move, you oversized hamburger." Wallace honked furiously, but the cow merely flicked its tail and remained unimpressed. By the time they maneuvered around the bovine blockade, Bob had gained another lead. Bob laughed as he spotted the delay in the rearview mirror. "Saved by a cow. Didn't see that coming." "If you think that's funny, you should see what's ahead," Mary muttered. Bob turned his gaze just in time to see a wooden fence dead ahead. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me." He stomped the brake, sending the car skidding. The front wheels hit a soft patch of mud, and for a terrifying second, the car felt like it would tip. Instead, it slid sideways, plowing straight through the rickety fence and bouncing onto another back road adjacent to the main highway. Bob checked himself before asking, "Mary, are you all right?" Mary groaned. "I think so. Mom is never going to forgive me for this." Bob floored it, sending up a cloud of dust and wooden splinters. "She will get over it once we explain," Mary side-eyed him. "Oh yeah, we stole a government car and went full fast and furious through a farm." Behind them, Wallace and Claire finally broke free of the livestock blockade. Wallace drove his car tentatively over the wreckage of the fence. "We're back on them," Wallace grumbled. And if he damages one more piece of property. The chase continued, and the police were still in pursuit. Bob pushed the car faster, the engine growling under his grip as they sped past the turnoff for the main highway. He smirked. "Best we stay off the highway." Mary glanced at him, unimpressed. "I've got no words." Bob glanced at her. "Less traffic, less cops." Mary sighed. "I hope you know what you're doing." Bob grunted as he sped along the road heading north. "So do I, kid." "So do I." A barn and a cow. Bob spotted an old barn nestled behind a line of trees and steered the battered white government car off the narrow road. With a glance at the rearview mirror, he confirmed that the police sirens were still wailing somewhere in the distance, but not far enough for comfort. "Hold tight, kid," he muttered as he pulled the car around the back of the hay barn, hidden from view of the country road. He killed the engine and let silence envelop them. Mary exhaled, rubbing her hands over her face. "Again, please tell me why we are doing this," Bob replied. "For you and your mom, so we can be a family again, but better this time." They heard a police car siren wailing as it drove past and on down the road. Then silence. There were no immediate signs of people. Just the wind rustling through the trees and the occasional distant moo from a cow somewhere on the property. "All right," he said, turning to Mary. "We need to ditch this car. Sooner or later, someone's going to notice a white Toyota with a government logo." Mary folded her arms. "Oh, wow. You're finally realizing it's a bad idea to be driving a stolen car with our faces on the news?" "Amazing." Bob sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "Can we save the sarcasm until after we find another ride?" Mary huffed but nodded. "Fine. So what's the plan?" In the past, Bob would have exploded with rage at any mere hint of insolence, but now the encounter with Shirleaf had altered that. He found himself quietly celebrating her venting of emotion on him. He realized it meant progress in their relationship. She was becoming less afraid of him and able to speak her mind. Bob counted this as a positive sign but kept the thought to himself. Bob stepped out of the car. "I'll scout ahead, see if there's anything we can use. You stay put and don't do anything that'll get us caught." Mary's blue eyes revealed uncertainty, but she gave a half-hearted salute. "Yes, Captain." Bob shook his head with a thin smile and wandered off, moving cautiously between the silage bales and stacks of wooden pallets. The barn sat in a back paddock of the farm, which looked sparsely maintained. A few cows milled about lazily in the paddock beyond the hay barn, their tails flicking away flies. Then something very strange happened. Bob had just reached the edge of the paddock when one of the cows, a large, sturdy brown one, stopped chewing its cud and turned its head toward him, its deep, placid eyes fixed on him with unnerving intensity. "So how's it going?" the cow asked. Bob's brain short-circuited. He stumbled back, his foot catching on a loose clump of earth, and fell straight onto his backside with a grunt. "What the?" The cow let out a long, bemused sigh. "Honestly, Bob, for someone who's been given a second chance at life, you are very easy to startle." Bob blinked rapidly, gripping the dirt beneath him like it would somehow tether him back to reality. "I hit my head. That's it. The accident. That's the only explanation." The cow chuckled. Or, at least, made a sound disturbingly close to a chuckle. "Come on, Bob. Don't be dense. You know who I am." Bob narrowed his eyes. "Shirleaf?" Ding, ding. "We have a winner," Shirleaf said, flicking its tail. "Surprise, I can be a cow too." Bob ran a hand down his face. "This is it. I've lost it. I've actually lost it." Shirleaf took a step closer, its hooves pressing into the soft dirt. "Relax, Bob. I'm here to check in, remember? You've made it this far, and that's something. But you've still got a long way to go." Bob let out a dry laugh. "Yeah? Well, I'd feel a lot better about my progress if I wasn't hiding behind a barn talking to a cow. It's not about how ridiculous it looks, Bob. It's about the journey," Shirleaf said sagely. Speaking of which, you're doing okay, but you've still got work to do. Bob sat up properly, rubbing his sore backside. And what's that supposed to mean? Sureleaf tilted its head. Mary still doesn't trust you. And let's be honest, you haven't exactly given her a reason to yet. You need to do more than just drive her to Auckland. You need to prove you can be the father she needs. Bob's jaw clenched. I know that. But it's not like there's a manual for this. I can't just snap my fingers and fix everything overnight. Sureleaf nodded. True, but you can start by listening to her, actually hearing what she needs from you. You've spent so long pushing her to the background, but have you ever asked what she wants? Bob hesitated. She wants her mom. And? Bob exhaled. And she wants to feel safe. Sureleaf's tail flicked again. Bingo. So figure out how to give her that. Not just when you get to Auckland, but now. If you can do that, you might just make it through this in one piece. Bob rubbed his temples. Great. Parenting advice from a cow. Exactly what my life was missing. Sureleaf snorted. You're welcome. Now go on. You've got a kid waiting and a car to find. Tick-tock, Bob. Time is running. With that, the cow turned back toward the field, resuming its lazy chewing as if the conversation had never happened. Bob sat there for a long moment before muttering, I need a drink. Then, shaking his head, he pushed himself to his feet and made his way back to Mary. The journey wasn't over yet, and now, thanks to a very peculiar spirit guide, he had a whole lot more to think about. Hi. Stay updated on J. Pilgrim's releases by following him on this channel. Join a community of fiction lovers who are inspired, entertained, and transformed by the works of J. Pilgrim. Like, subscribe, and share this series. See you in the next episode.